We'll send this out. All right, so I'd love to hear, just either take yourself off mute, put it in chat. This is record attendance for a contracts class in August, let's say. So what caused it? Like, what's everybody's like, hey, cool, I'm definitely coming in for this. What specifically was it?
I think it's a great marketing tool to be able to get them into coming soon. I think there's just a lot of maybe you can give us a bulleted point list of exactly the rules to follow. That's my biggest problem, is not being 100% certain what the rules are for the coming soon status.
Okay, that's fair. Who else? Who wants to share? What caused you to jump on today?
I actually have my first listing coming up this week. So anything related to listing, I'm here.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Ronnie summed it up. Love that.
I rely a lot on the coming soon. And it seems like they're not on there long enough. Like it's like a day ahead of time or something. Like I'm trying to figure out how I can, it just seems like it's on there so quickly.
Okay.
That I don't have enough time to really make use of it.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, like Ronnie said, my big question is not just the requirements and the rules and everything. Also, how does that extend beyond the MLS? How does it extend to social media marketing, and when can we put it on our Facebooks and stuff like that is kind of my big questions.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So here's what I want to do. I'll kind of have a general discussion of it. And then, what the purpose of this was to go to the bullet points specifically on coming soon. And then also for you guys to be able to see exactly where these rules are, just in case you have any questions. Of course, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. This wasn't an issue 12 months ago. This wasn't an issue because we didn't really honestly have time for coming soon. And where we're not going to get too much into the debate of whether or not it's a useful tool. I will tell you that there are stats. We used to run coming soon at a very high level with our business, and we would have a full-blown marketing campaign that was set up specifically for coming soon. So before it was even being shown to anyone. And you could prove that once it goes active, that there are some strong stats that say using coming soon will actually get more money for your client and sell it faster because you created some urgency. On the flip side, and probably what, and again, I'm not picking on Ronnie, she spoke up, and I'm going to reference Ronnie quite a bit because in her expertise is one of the things that we're missing out on, because even in a different market, listings are still selling and they're selling fairly quickly. So are we capitalizing on the opportunity to leverage that to gain more buyers? There's nothing wrong with, how do you market your property more to build your business from the buyer side? So that's just something to keep in mind is, why do you do this? Now, if you're not going to have a coming soon plan, which is an entirely different discussion we can do a mastermind on it. You're not going to have like a specific coming soon plan. It may not be something that you need to be super focused on. And it may be just more, is this something we use for timing to get the home ready, those sorts of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the bullet points of what the rules are, how we play within the rules, and then what that means moving forward. Okay. So as always, I'm going to jump straight to all the paperwork that we have that we get to follow because it's so much fun. All right, so give me a thumbs up if you're looking at the document right now where it says section 1.12 listing input and clear cooperation. Okay, great. So basically the first thing we do is define coming soon, and coming soon is define the rules, I should say, of the timing of your contract. And what this says is we're going to start with this section here of the listing input and clear cooperation. And what this says is the listing broker, which is all of you as well, as by definition as an agent of the brokerage, you can sign for the broker, must submit the listing in the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants within 7 days of the effective date of the listing. Okay, so let's define that first. So what that just said is once you have a listing agreement signed, our local MLS requirements are within 7 days of the effective date of that listing being signed, it must go into the MLS. Okay, so if we're looking at a timeline, basically this is the first 7 days here. So here's what that would look like. What's an effective date of the listing? So what that is actually defined on page 1 of the listing agreement, which is for the period of time beginning. I'm going to share the screen of the first page of the listing agreement. Your effective date of the listing agreement is defined right here in this first line. So whenever you say it began, and for even numbers, I'm just going to say, let's say this is September 1. That means within 7 days of September 1, that would then have to go into the MLS, as it states here, in order for it to be in full cooperation of the MLS rules. Okay, so that's step 1. That makes sense to everybody? Any questions about that? All right. So then what happens is we have the next phase of this, which is the way during that 7 days, we do have to abide by the clear cooperation rules, which means, I should actually not share yet, which means during those first 7 days, even though you have the 7 days to put it in the MLS, during that time, assuming it's a traditional listing, you cannot market it publicly. So during those first 7 days, you cannot market it publicly. Because what happens is if you market publicly, and we'll jump back into the screen here, is once you market publicly, you then trigger the clear cooperation rule, which says within 1 business day of marketing the property to the public, at that point, it does need to be entered into the MLS. Okay. So once you have a listing agreement signed, there are 2 things that'll trigger it going to the MLS. 1 will be the within 7 days based on your date, or 2 will be based on the clear cooperation rule, which says once you go public, you have to go into the MLS within 1 business day. Make sense? Okay, just so as a little, just brief history lesson. For those of you that are wondering, okay, what is this whole thing with the clear cooperation? What that is the NAR standards and rules that govern our MLS, because we have an association owned MLS, says that if you have a listing and you market it publicly, it has to go in the MLS within 1 business day. I could spend an hour talking about the merits of that, the spirit of the rule. I wholeheartedly believe in. The unintended consequences have been not great. Yet the entire spirit of clear cooperation, just so you can explain this to your clients, is it is to protect the consumers from discrimination. Because what they don't want to have happen is that you have a listing and then you get to pick and choose who it gets marketed to. And what was happening, and I know that would absolutely never happen with anybody in our organization or really anybody I know in the industry for the most part, is what was happening is some people were picking and choose who to market that to using discriminatory practices. That was the root of this entire thing. So to be very clear, where I don't love the outcome and how it was implemented, I absolutely believe in why they did it. So we just play within the rules, which is completely fine. Okay, so establish, you've got 2 ways it triggers to the MLS. Number 1 is based on within 7 days of the effective date. Number 2 is within 1 business day of public marketing. So as a quick refresher, any public marketing means marketed to anyone other than you at all. Really, honestly, anyone other than you or the brokerage. So you cannot, let me rephrase that. Anyone other than you, the brokerage, or the brokerage's clients, right? You can now again, let's pause on that, because that's really not what we're talking about here. Public marketing would then be the seller marketing it, you putting it on Facebook, me putting it on Facebook, the seller's neighbor putting it on Facebook. Anytime it goes to market at that point in time, because you have a listing agreement, you would then trigger clear cooperation and have to go in within 1 business day. Okay, so if that were to happen today, you'd have to be by 6 p.m. tomorrow. If that happens on Friday, it would have to be 6 p.m. the following Monday. It would have to go into the MLS.
So
Okay.
that's triggered when the seller decides to market the property too?
Correct. So, and again, so this goes, and Sean, I know the question behind the question is, how can we really dictate whether or not the seller can market the property? We can't. Like, if the seller wants to market the property, that's fine. You just need to understand the rules. So if you know your seller's going to do that, you need to explain to them, okay, from a timing standpoint, if you want to market it sooner via Facebook and all those sorts of things, you can. We just have to be ready to go into the MLS within 1 business day once you start that. Okay. Now,
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, what if I told my next door neighbor? Look,
Public marketing.
I'm gonna put my house on the market. Okay.
Public marketing. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. So let's just make sure we play within the rules. Now, here's what happens. Worst case scenario, it happens. I get an email, you get an email, and it says, hey, Jackie, we've been made aware of your listing at 123 Main has been marketed to the public. Please confirm that this will be inputted into the MLS by end of business day X amount. And then we can go back to them. The thing is to have everything done properly. So if this does happen, and listen, this happens. If a seller accidentally does it, or for some reason it gets reported, it's a self-reporting system. There's really no way this happens unless someone sees it and then emails the MLS and says, hey, I see Jackie's got a coming soon sign, or Jackie's neighbor said, hey, Jackie's going to be listing my property next week. It is a self-reporting system. So at that point, we just handle it. Okay. All right. So then let's go back to, again, we're just assuming we're following, we're not going any exceptions. We're not trying to play the game. We're just doing the standard 7 days or get triggered by clear cooperation. So jumping back on here. Let me make sure I have, okay.
While you're looking for that, Joseph, one thing that I'll point out is the fact that and I will restate what you stated, if it gets publicly marketed on Friday, it's not required to be in MLS until the following Monday at 6 p.m. So I was always under the impression in real estate, because I work 7 days a week, I don't take designated days off. I may take some time off, but not designated days. So but Saturdays and Sundays are weekends and for the MLS. So really what I would, and I guess, is it holidays as well?
Correct. It would be
So
anything
it's
considered
whenever
business.
the MLS office is closed. Can we
Correct.
kind of use that as a baseline?
Yes. Yeah, what they would say with business days, and I think there's probably a specific guideline of like federal holidays. So for instance, same example, next Friday would actually be Tuesday because of Labor Day. So, and you bring up a good point, and here's what I want to kind of be a little clear on is, if you don't, the argument will be, you always want to put is, are you putting the best interest of the seller, right? And there's a strong argument that someone would say, why would you, let's just take the Friday one. Why would you not, if you will, make sure, if everybody make sure they're muted, why would you not have your client's property on the market for a weekend? Like, how is that not the best interest of the client to have that on the weekend? So that's just something to keep in mind. We don't have to get in that debate now. That's just something that they will look at. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you have here's the thing, if you have a full-blown coming soon marketing program, one could argue, well, that's why it's in the best interest, is I'm creating urgency and I'm bringing people there. So just something to think about. All right, so let's go back now. Let's say we've walked through the process here. We're gonna go back here and it says, okay, listing input, clear cooperation. It's gonna go in either within 7 days of the effective date or within 1 business days, whichever is sooner. Now, when it goes into the MLS, understand what that means is properties may be entered in the MLS, either active or coming soon. Okay, so let's jump now up, scroll up, because we didn't want it to be in order. Let's jump up here and say, okay, here's the definition of coming soon. So when you're in coming soon status, basically means you have now put it into the MLS as coming soon. No showings. You have a listing with a valid listing agreement. It's undergoing listing preparations. A listing is in the status, may not be shown, and may only be marketed as coming soon. Properties may only remain in this status for 7 calendar days. Listing in this status will automatically switch to active after 7 calendar days. Okay, couple things on this. Actually, I'm just going to leave it on here so you guys can take a look at it. It cannot be shown, and it can only be marketed as coming soon. Now, it can be marketed anywhere. At that point, you could do an absolute blast. And even if you like, and I know Ronnie's very strategic in her marketing, so even if she wanted to start on the Friday before, you can start blasting coming soon, all of these, showings available on X date. At that point, it's a free for all. And you've got basically those first 7 days that you can do coming soon marketing. Now, as far as the MLS is concerned, it's not syndicated to websites. It's not syndicated out to Zillow or anything like that. It is simply for other agents to go on and be able to see it. And the reason behind that, and this was, I'm gonna be honest with you, having a coming soon status seemed to be it was a fun little debate, but we got it. I wanted more than 7. We got 7. But having that and the argument was Susie's driving around with her buyer, or Susie gets a call from her buyer and says, "Hey, I see this listing that Ronnie Haskell has up there, says coming soon. What can you tell me about it?" Susie's only option at that point is to just call, call Ronnie, and then it's not as smooth as a situation that would be because they know each other. Is a terrible example, but if otherwise, what you can have is just go straight to the MLS, and then now Susie goes to the MLS and looks it up and says, "Yeah, she's got a listing on 123 Main. It looks from here that it's going to be available for showing on the 7th." Okay, now I want to have one point of clarification because we just had this. It says in here, will be automatically switched to active after 7 days. That's if there's a little bit of some verbiage issue in here. That doesn't mean that the difference is there's actually an active date. An activate for showings date when you input this in as coming soon. You actually select the date for it to go active. It does not allow you to select a date after 7 days, or I think if you do select it after 7 days, it will automatically go active at 7 days. However, if you select a date sooner, it will go active automatically. So if your whole plan that you've set up and your seller's expecting to make sure the photos are done and the house is ready and everything is there is on the 7th, and you accidentally, or there was a miscommunication, you put on the 5th, that is automatically done in the MLS. So we want to make sure that you've got clear communication on what that looks like.
Joseph, in my experience, it kicks it live, and I think it may kick it live at midnight. So if I select, say, September 3rd, I want it to go live, it will kick it live. And then I'll start getting notices. Well, it's not in showing time yet. It's not here. You don't have. And so do you know you don't get to pick your time?
You do not get to pick your time. That's it's a great point because it definitely happens. I think it starts to roll through the system and survey after midnight. So I've seen them come live anytime from midnight to 3 a.m. So that is something to keep in mind, is if you don't have everything shown up or set up as it relates to showing time and connected there, you obviously going to have in your plan early that morning that you've got everything going. All right. Questions so far?
I think I already know the answer to this, Joseph, but what the coming soon status doesn't count against days on market, right?
I knew that question was going to be asked. It does not. It might. I'm gonna have to email that out. I always draw a blank on that, and I always ask every time I ask MLS. They're like, "This is the 5th time you've asked the question," because there was a strong argument that it shouldn't be in the MLS. But I'm pretty sure my answer right now is it does not count. If anybody does know the answer to that, I should know, but it does not count as days on market.
If it goes in coming soon, is it picked up anywhere else, like a Zillow coming soon, or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not automatically done. You can go do it, but it's not automatically syndicated from the MLS.
I don't even know if Zillow coming soon is still a thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, it used to be. No, go ahead. I've got a question after you, Sean. Go ahead.
Okay. What's the best way to go about if we put coming soon and some agent, brokerage XYZ reaches out and wants to show it during that coming soon status? And is that a no-go? Can we switch it to active immediately? What's the right answer there?
Okay, so I had a clear answer until you said, "Can we switch it to active immediately?" So it's a no-go. It's simply at this point, per coming soon rules, we can't have showings until the 7th. Now, from a technical standpoint, if you switched it early to active, sure, you could show it. I do not do that. And here's why, especially if you've had anybody inquire prior to that to go see it, because then you're picking and choosing who can see it. Now, if someone's adamant on it, and here's what'll happen, worst case scenario, they'll be like, "Sean, I've got a buyer. Why would you, and everybody trumps best interest of your client, right? Because we haven't thought about that. And they'll say, "Well, I've got a buyer. Why would you not want it? Wouldn't they want off market?" I totally understand. Submit an offer contingent on seeing the house. or due diligence. Like, you're welcome to do that. Okay. And if people do submit an offer, and to be clear, this is a good discussion because I've gotten into some very fun discussions with other brokers. If they submit an offer, by law, which trumps everything we've talked about, by law, that offer must be submitted to your client, coming soon status or not. This is not we don't hold offers during coming soon. You would submit that.
Here's my question, Joseph. Do you have to upload your documents, property seller's disclosure, personal property, and lead-based paint during the coming soon status?
No, great question. All the compliance information that needs to be on there, the deadlines for that are not until active status, active showings.
I have a question, Joseph, because we already have this form in Charlotte. So if the coming soon time is pushed out, there's doing still more repairs or anything like that, do you need to take it down and put in the temporary off market status?
You would. Okay, so that's a good question. Yes, you would have to. You would have to then at that point move to temporarily off market. You can only do temporarily off market for up to 7 days as well. So just be mindful of that. And then temporarily off market, you would at that point have to cease all public marketing.
Okay. And then is
It
there
would not be.
coming soon form from the MLS that we have to sign or fill out at all?
No. No.
Sounds-
All right. So we've covered this. I do want to go into, we've covered coming soon status. One of the things that I do want to go into though, because let's go back to the question that was asked, and I'm sorry, your name popped up, but I didn't see you on here. I think that was Christina that asked that question. So the other question is let's say in that situation where you've got a listing that does need a couple weeks before it goes live, right? Or before it does any of this. There's a couple of ways that you can handle this. Okay. The first one is going back to the listing agreement here. I'm just going to use round numbers. Let's say it's September 1st right now. You're talking to them and they don't want it to go on the market until September 15th. You can then do the effective date of September 15th, right? And that this isn't for coming soon, right? This is just, and then everything's triggered at September 15th and you put it in the MLS at that point, or you've got 7 days to get in the MLS. So technically you have until September 22nd, whatever it is at that point. If you need time for the listing, not to market, but if you need time for the listing, that's the first way you can do it. Here's a challenge with that. You do have an active list. You do not have a technically active listing agreement until September 15th because the effective date is not until the 15th. So if you sign this on the 1st and then you start doing, helping your sellers get all your ducks in a row, you get photography done, whatever it may be, you start doing all that and then they get an offer or someone comes in and talks to them about how they could list their house for less, for whatever amount, you're not protected by the listing agreement because it's not within the active listing agreement dates. Okay. So the second option, and this is where we've gotten a lot of confusion on it, is the second option is you have the effective date beginning on September 1, and then section 13 is you have two options as it relates to the multiple listing service. Is in this option, 95% of the time, you're going to select option 1, the property be entered in the MLS, using all the rules that we just talked about. Okay, so we've talked about that. Option 2 is that the seller does not consent for their property to be placed in MLS, and they want to have what's called a brokerage exclusive listing. Okay, so what the brokerage exclusive listing does is this gives you an active listing agreement. You're protected, right? You're protected from them listing with anybody else. You're protected as anybody coming in. However, you cannot market it to anyone that is not in your brokerage or represented by your brokerage. So you can go post it on the KW Charleston, and it does apply to all of the local KW offices because it's the same broker in charge, which is one of the reasons we're keeping that to help expand that network. So it applies to all of them, and then those agents' clients. So we can post it on Facebook. You can send out an email to everyone. The Facebook page for KW Charleston, you can send out an email. But again, if you see those as an agent, and you let's say I posted coming soon on there as an agent, and then Maui sees it and was like, "Ooh, this is a cool one." Don't go post that to your Facebook page because now you've made it public. So you got to be careful on that. If you make it public, then all of a sudden you're no longer a brokerage exclusive. Brokerage exclusive is very rarely used. We don't have a lot of clients. We do sometimes have some high net worth clients, some clients that maybe not want their property to go live, or excuse me, it's live in the MLS or online. We do have some situations where they've hired an agent to come in and exclusively represent them in a sale that's already been put into motion. So we do have to have a listing agreement to represent them, but they're not going to actually market it. So it would only be negotiated with represented clients. If you do, this is where we have, well, let me ask, questions so far on the brokerage exclusive? Okay, if you do go with the brokerage exclusive, one of the things that it does say in here is you then do agree to complete any paperwork required by multiple listing service of which your broker is the member to verify the property will not be publicly marketed. So when you do that locally, there is a form that is on the MLS forms page. That's a fun one. And this is called the Charleston Regional Multiple Listing Service Office Exclusive Addendum. So if you do a brokerage exclusive, you are required to fill this form out, which basically sets all your timelines in here. It maps out your timeline of your brokerage agreement, your listing agreement, the effective date, the property address. It does give you an option 2 here. I'm not going to go in great detail because this is more coming soon, but it does give you an option 2 here to go ahead and set a date at which you're going to move it to a publicly marketed listing. So let's go back to the same example. If you know you're going to publicly market it on September 15th, then you would sign it as a brokerage exclusive on September 1st, and then fill this form out and says it will be an office exclusive up until the September 15th that you would have here. And then at that point, you trigger the 7 days to then go into the MLS, unless you publicly market it, and then it's 1 business day, and then 7 days of coming soon. Clear as mud? What questions do you have? Oh, by the way, this form, after you fill out, you do have to have, you sign it, the seller signs it, I need to sign it, and then you email it into to the MLS. All right, what questions do you guys have?
Joseph,
Yes, ma'am.
did I miss the whole thing? Like, just that piece of paper needs to be sent to the MLS?
Correct.
No other forms need to be sent into the MLS, or is that something new?
No other forms need to be sent to the MLS.
That's the only form, once it's signed by all parties, needs to be sent into the MLS.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's only for the office exclusive, correct? When we're
That's
using-
only for the office exclusive, correct. So if you're doing anything up until what we started talking about until like 5 minutes ago, if you're doing coming soon and you're following the dates and you're not doing office exclusive, there's nothing additional you need to do.
Would it count for if I wanted to let a Keller Williams agent know in Myrtle Beach? Or,
It would not.
So-
That would be an outside brokerage.
but can I let them know during coming soon?
Yes. During coming soon on the MLS. Yes. All right. What additional questions? All right. Well, I'm sure you'll have many questions, and I am happy to answer any of them. But we will post this. We will get it out. I'm going to do another one probably, and I'm going to kind of come up with a timeline, just a visual timeline, kind of choose your own adventure. That way you guys can have a visual of it. But again, if you read through a couple of the docs, just again, it's effective date needs to be within the MLS within 7 days, unless you publicly market it. Then it's with 1 day, and then once you put it in the MLS, you've got 7 days for coming soon, and then after that, it's a free for all. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Happy selling. Go get more listings. I'd love a ton of questions about coming soons and office exclusives. All right.
Bye.
Y'all have a good one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.